Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
In honor of Black History Month, we like to showcase the great Black contributions to the pop cultural landscape as we know it.
This year we'll be celebrating the milestones, heroes, and artistry depicting the Black experience.
So without further delay, let's explore the history of Rebel Ridge 2024 on Black History Heroes. Yeah. All right, Dragon. So this year in particular, we are taking a look at some of the most prestigious picks from the canon of contemporary Black cinema, whether that be Black actors getting a big breakout role, which is the case with Rebel Ridge, Black filmmakers, movies about the Black experience. In most cases, probably a good combination of all three of those things. So, we're not focusing on like a brand or a company or anything. This is strictly like art. We're strictly focusing on Black contemporary art here. So I'm excited about this. I think we've got a pretty decent selection of films here. So we're starting out with Rebel Ridge, Dragon. This was really your movie. You kind of turned me on to it. So why don't you start with your thesis on this?
Right. So this I feel is a big win for Netflix last year. There was a little buzz about it, but wow, it was so great. I felt. I think it's just like the rare occasion of do you get a Netflix action film that breaks the formula barrier that we're always kind of pigeonholed with the Netflix action movies, where it feels like there's something actually
get a Chris, get some comedy in there.
Well, I guess, yeah, you could kind of put it that way, but yeah. I was saying more generic action.
The formula, just like Chris, some bullshit espionage plot, some like D-tier Marvel level comedy.
Okay. Anyway.
Tell me I'm lying.
Well, I don't know how accurate that is, but I think it's more of like just take a Hollywood Chris, put him in an action situation, either espionage or mercenary work. I'm thinking more Extraction, mind you. That's what I'm saying. Like Extraction is very much that's the playbook for this sort of affair. I think you think Rebel Ridge. We got a serious guy, and he's in a serious situation, and we've grayed everything up, but it wasn't that at all.
No, not at all.
But this was a relevant and engrossing story. I think it felt like a welcome change, and of course, this was very much kind of the unofficial audition for Aaron Pierre to play John Stewart Green Lantern, which I think kind of radiates throughout the film. But I mean, in many respects, I mean, this thing feels like kind of like the show Reacher. Like it's very much kind of like Aaron Pierre's kind of take on Reacher. So it's kind of I know it's very much.
That. I'm not that into Reacher, but I could see it.
I'm saying Reacher pretty straightforward. It's kind of like the Incredible Hulk TV show where he just kind of ends up kind of like going to a town or going to some location. Then he's just kind of walked into a situation he's dealing with for the whole season. So I don't know. There's something with kind of the Louisiana town vibe. It feels I don't know, and just the way he carries himself and the idea like the coolest kind of guy with a military experience who plays it really cool and smoothly and just kind of like he's not showing off when it rises to the occasion. It's like, oh god, he kills it. In this case, he non-lethally kills it, but still. Anywho, so I was head over heels for this. I was just honestly just kind of crept up and I realized, man, I'm talking about Rebel Ridge a lot. I just keep bringing it up to people. There might be something here, and there we go. And the year list, it's there in the top 10, so it was pretty good.
Alrighty, so let's see. For me, I definitely, I'm not as much of an action movie guy as you are. So for me, I kind of lean on the performance side of things more here. I think really the big breakout in this movie is just Aaron Pierre as this character. I think it's just a really, really solid performance. And like I said, I feel like it's kind of a star-making turn for him. Of course, he was in Mufasa this year as the titular Mufasa. He probably should have played Mufasa from the get-go. He probably should have been Mufasa in the original Lion King as well. Well, the remake, the original remake. And then, of course, we're getting him as Jon Stewart. So yeah, it's exciting to have him in just such a star-making turn like this. And also, Dragon, I will tell you, obviously, I don't have the same level of experience with police as Black people do, but having, as someone on the autism spectrum who's also a big guy who's kind of prone to like some erratic movements and stuff, especially when I get a little panicked, I have been harassed by the police before. I have been stopped by the police and basically been given some bullshit. Not nearly to this extent, mind you. My dad has gone through the whole thing where, like, literally, like, over one arrest for some bullshit, he'll, like, basically everything in his possession was just confiscated from him and, like, not returned, like, under strictly sketchy circumstances. So my dad has kind of been here a little bit more than I have, but I can still, like, I still have had some negative police encounters, but granted, I think one of the big things in this movie, one of the big themes when it comes to the Black experience is kind of like police profiling, which we'll get into. But, Dragon, before we go any further, I think it's time to say hello to our mascot for Black History Heroes. Everybody say hi, David!
Yes, so of course we like our credo here is Tiki and I are by definition the whitest men on the internet, and the best way of exemplifying that, exemplifying that is basically using the old adage, we're whiter than David High Pierce skiing.
So yes, we say this every year just because. Well, we do like to pay tribute to these Black artists, Black films, Black stories. We ourselves are pretty objectively not Black, believe it or not.
Or basically Frasier hanging a painting of Rabbit in a Snowstorm. That's essentially what
yeah.
It's like, oh, Tiki, look at it on the wall. Doesn't it brighten the room up?
So we're gonna try and be all cultural and shit about this stuff, but please give us a little bit of leeway.
We're very unqualified.
Yes. All right. Okay, so Dragon, do you have any background on this?
Just a skosh.
All right.
It's a recent film. Not a lot's really known about it. All I can really tell you. So Jeremy Saulnier, he directed this. Now Saulnier, he did some episodes of True Detective, the show. It was 2019, so I don't know if that was the Mahershala Ali season or not. I'm not sure. I think it might have been. I think you might. Did you watch that season?
I did, yeah.
Do you know if it was 2019 that came out?
I can look it up. I don't remember off the top of my head. True Detective.
All right.
Sorry, season 3. True Detective season 3 was in 2019. Yes.
Ah, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Also did a movie on Netflix called Hold the Dark, which I want to say kind of paved the way for, hey, let's get a Netflix director on this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this guy, he both wrote and directed this. Originally, it was slated for John Boyega to have the titular role of Terry Richmond.
Yeah.
But essentially, the pandemic delayed things. They lost Boyega in the process there, and enter Aaron Pierre. And Aaron Pierre, you and I have some cross nexus on, as you said recently, young Mufasa. Kind of like young Sheldon.
I was going to say a little bit cooler than young Sheldon, just a little bit.
No, I'm saying it's the same thing. It's just literally it's early years, the precocious early years of Mufasa. He's kind of getting away the land. He's impressing people. He's making he's making a running gag of himself until he takes a great fall. But that's the story of Mufasa. God. Anyway.
Dragon, you have no idea how much they linger on the whole like Scar grabbing his claws thing. They make a fucking meal out of that in the Mufasa movie.
Anyway, hyena meat aside. Yeah, I mean, you know him from he was one of the many kind of age transformations in Old, the movie Old.
Old, yes.
Yeah. And the thing I knew him from, it was kind of like I could have had a V8 moment. I realized, and it's very appropriate. He's cast in a DC movie. He so Aaron Pierre was in the show Krypton, which is kind of like the Sci-Fi Channel equivalent to Gotham.
Yeah, right.
Long story short, he played Dave M. Now, Dave M. essentially in that show functioned as the romantic rival to Seg-El. Seg-El is basically Superman's grandpa, who the show's about.
Uh-huh.
I didn't say it was a great show. I'm just saying that's what he played in. Had its moments. Had a good Lobo. Had a go prima moa Lobo. Wasn't bad. Anyway. So, also, apparently the whole civil forfeiture thing that you detailed a little bit of, Tiki. Real thing, based on a real thing that the whole thing, the idea like a town would forfeiture, kind of like they would confiscate stuff and they would end up funding the town very illicitly. This is inspired by some real stuff that has gone on in a few towns in Louisiana, from what I understand.
Roanoke Park, California, bro. I've had personal experience with it. I think it's a pretty universal thing with police departments, honestly. One thing I've also experienced with police departments is like dragging the whole thing where like as it gets closer to the end of the month, be fucking careful, dude, because they are looking for their quotas.
Yep. A lot of quotas.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing, though. You don't really see that represented in movies often. The whole, like the whole logistics of the civil forfeiture thing. The whole, the idea of like basically, essentially, I guess the layman's, it's basically it's filling a quota, but essentially filling a quota to kind of like hit a target financial goal to fund the police. Essentially, that's kind of the. Which, in recent years we've had a lot of like fund the police, defund the police kind of stuff. So I think it's more relevant than it ever has been before in terms of like when this movie was made. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, overall movie performed very well, and like we mentioned, landed Aaron Pierre some Green Lantern work, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So I guess next up we have we just break it down, Dragon.
Yeah,
so the first thing I want to say is this, like, honestly, out of a lot of movies, I don't want to say it's like in like the top 5 opening sequences of the year for me, because we had some really stellar ones. The two that come to mind, of course, Dragon, are the movies that I was whoring out for all of 2024: Dune Part 2 and Challengers. I'm sorry, those two are a little bit above this. But as far as opening scenes, I mean, this one is
it's electric.
Frankly, unlike most Netflix slop, where I'm just like, I am just struggling to like just get a foothold, just give me something to be interested in.
I did tell you that the opening of this movie would hook you, would lock you in.
You did, and it certainly does. You want to kind of give us a rundown on what's going on, Dragon?
Easily one of probably one of the scenes of the movie. I think this and the Don Johnson scene later on we're going to get to, I think, are probably the scenes of the film. So this is an excellent sell of a movie. The premise, the build-up. So we have Terry's traveling by bike to basically post his cousin Mike's bail.
Terry?
Yep, where's Terry indeed. That's what Mike's saying. Where's Terry? I need bail. But yes, so his cousin Mike, he needs bail money, and basically, the idea is going to bail his cousin out, and they're going to buy a truck and maybe start a small business together, at least kind of make their way somewhere. So he gets run off. Basically, his crime was wearing earbuds. That's essentially what his crime was.
Right.
Run off the road by cops and detained because of earbuds. And here's what I love about this opening. We take a tense and familiar situation at this point in time we are ingrained to feel nervous about. So we take something that at this point we've seen a number of times, or at least we know in our bones is something we should be.
We've seen Fruitvale Station.
Sure. Well, you have, yes.
Oh, you still haven't?
I was going to, but then we didn't end up covering it.
Well, fair.
I'm going to get to it eventually, but
But I've told you this before. It's one of those things where it's like I genuinely don't know if I could I can sit through the rest of the movie, but when the actual shit goes down in Fruitvale Station, I don't know if I can stomach watching that again.
Right.
Anyway,
so point being, we take this tense and familiar situation, and then it leads to kind of this unfamiliar and exciting execution of the situation through the dialogue, and basically the dialogue exchanges that Aaron Pierre the way he plays Terry having this military background, he's very
Mhm.
much kind of playing a kind of art of war style, like the very much the whole like you kind of play it. You play your cards close to the vest. You kind of at times you either not so much play the fool in this case, but I mean. You play like, okay, you're keeping it civil, keeping it direct. Like you're not challenging. You're keeping it very much in check. It demonstrates an intelligence and just it's very much kind of a again, like I said, like an art of war approach to kind of racism and corruption. Essentially, is what we're doing here. We're okay. We've seen the age old traffic stop. We've never seen it quite like this, where this guy he's playing it very smart, but not in fear though. More so like I do not want these guys to slow me down, so I'm just gonna give them the answers I need, but I'm not gonna like kind of take a knee, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, however, he's just I love how empathetic we are in how the cops unjustly confiscate his money here. Where again, he's making a very direct case of like, look, it's just I'm just posting bail. That's why I have all this cash. It's not illegal. It's not a crime. It's just like because it's like they're making the assumption that was gotten illicitly or it's drug money and all this stuff, which is not the case. And they see an opportunity to take the money, which again, that's the rub right there.
Hmm.
It's a great opening. It just again, it's also I like our cop performances here and the fact that these guys kind of turn up like bad pennies all throughout the movie. We got the David Denman cop character, and we have the other guy who I think it's
Do you know the guy like the guy that I think is the biggest scumbag, and we'll get to this is
mhm.
the moment where I've told you this before.
I know that's Officer
Yeah, where
Land. Okay.
he literally throws the gun
Mhm.
in the car and then yells "gun."
Yeah, that's him. So
Okay,
so he's the both of them
that
are
guy
there.
is just like the world's worst fucking son of a bitch,
So
dude.
I love this, by the way. Okay, so we have Officer Marston. So that's David Denman's character. He's the one who has the arc later on when he gets shot. So I love him, and he's from The Office, and he was in Brightburn. Really good actor. I love the guy's good. And then we have Officer Land, who is just utterly just this horrible. He's the one who like he kind of forces. He's the one who executed the whole OD plan
Uh-huh.
on the girl on Summer. So that's so again just utter. You're right, utter detestable scumbag. But anyways, I love that these guys are very much like they're not just like nameless, like faceless cops. Like these guys are. It's very much it's a small cast, and you kind of remember these guys, like especially when they have moments like gun.
Right, right.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyway, so I guess so. Again, so Terry's goal very simply just needs to recover that bail money to save his cousin from getting stabbed by a gang in prison. That's essentially the fear is that his cousin might get recognized or end up getting killed.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very good, like urgent high stakes. I think right off the bat, it makes you really sympathize with the character too. It's just again, it's just a really great kind of character exercise as far as just building up sympathy for the main character, building up content for our villains, our very, very real world, like scarily real world villains. And
Mm.
the best part is, Dragon, is that we haven't even met the worst of the worst yet when it comes to the cops. We'll get to him.
Yeah. I do love there is a lot of Albuquerque verse kind of vibes here, only in the negative, not in a bad way, not in like a poorly executed way. I just mean in a more like we've seen the DEA and the police kind of like portrayed in the Albuquerque verse, and we've seen just kind of I just love like the detail that the K9 units at the vet, like that's what I'm talking about. Those little touches.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Where
yeah.
it's like just like the conversational thing of like, okay, look, if I let you examine the bag and there's nothing illegal, I can go on my way, right? And says, yeah, well, we're gonna see how it goes, but yeah. So
Hmm.
that's what I mean. Those kind of exchanges, very down to earth. So, but essentially, we see the system fail Terry and Mike at every turn here. Essentially, is what Act One's all about. All because again, like Mike, he's in there only because he was in possession of like a misdemeanor of like drugs that mainly just having weed on him, having marijuana on him.
Yeah, it's the classic kind of war on drugs, just creating criminals out of people who just otherwise are just perfectly harmless citizens, except for like, oh no, they smoke pot.
And again, so it's so again their whole lives get upturned all because one was carrying marijuana, and the other one was driving vaguely, not even super distracted. Like had someone beeped a horn, I think it would have heard them. That's the thing. It's like
Right,
barely
right, yeah,
distracted driving.
yeah.
Just anyway.
Yeah, it was literally like, wasn't it literally that he didn't see the lights that were behind him?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, because he didn't see the lights that were behind him, and he had like the earbuds in, and he was listening to like heavy metal music or something. But it was like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's about it. So again,
very frustrating.
Okay, so so we have the clerks. We have Summer, the clerk.
Mm-hmm.
So
Played by
she's
Anna Sophia Robb, and Dragon. I said this in my memoirs coverage, but it's so like I am so used to seeing this actress like. Like people like Selena Gomez. I think I'm fine with seeing her in like more adult roles. For like Anna Sophia Robb was Leslie Burke, okay? And Leslie Burke, if you read Bridge to Terabithia in school, like that, Leslie Burke is like a sacred like embodiment of childhood innocence, my friend. That character is like, yeah. So I don't know. It was I kind of got like she does a great job here, but I kind of got thrown through a loop, because she's basically like Josh Hutcherson's first manic pixie dream girl in Bridge to Terabithia, and then suddenly she's going from that to like single mother with who's a recovering drug addict who's just trying to get by. Like it's a great performance. It just really throws me for a loop based on what I'm familiar with this actress from.
Yeah. So basically, she's kind of Mrs. Exposition here. She explains the whole. So she works at a courthouse. She explains the civil forfeiture thing. I think she's going for a law degree. So again, she's kind of our de facto. She's kind of Kim Wexler in an action movie to a degree.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so she basically explains the loophole where basically so long as it's like not essentially it's so long as it's not like a legit seizure that would have to be documented in a certain way, they can basically use it. They can confiscate and use it for it goes into the discretionary funds that essentially funds the town that really lines the sheriff's pocket.
Right.
So so let's see. So we have this awesome, bold plan on Terry's part, where he basically goes into the police station after he tries kind of securing Plan B with Mister Lee, Mister Liu. I mean, he's trying to secure like the extra bail money just in case this doesn't work. So he basically goes to file. I love this scene. He files a police report of the cops who stole his money at the police station.
Right.
It's also, I think, one of our best side characters in the whole movie is Officer Jess. Jess Sims, the lady at the desk who kind of takes the statement and everything, and she's basically, she's kind of.
You know what I like about her is I like how like she's obviously, if anyone on the police is going to be on Terry's side, it's her. But like, she plays her cards close to the vest. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
She's not just like instantly sympathetic to him.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Initially, she's going about taking the statement of somebody, and it's like I think she's got a good sense of him. She's got she sized him up appropriately, and then this thing of like, okay, wait a minute, this guy is stirring up trouble, and she kind of goes into like it's kind of cop mode, as it were. She's like, okay, I was just kind of approaching it by the book, just following orders there. And again, I just love that we have this arc throughout the movie of she's kind of reluctantly teamed up with him. And she kind of slowly but surely, by the third act, she sees, okay, definitely, this guy is absolutely in the right, and the police department's completely in the wrong, and I need to tip the scales back and work in order there.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, also too, it kind of speaks to it's kind of a one. The way we see it, she's essentially like the only female officer and the only black officer at this precinct, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So she's kind of like she's kind of on the outs in two ways in this very kind of southern Louisiana department. I don't know.
Yeah, so like I said, it's like we expect her to be the one that's going to be on Terry's side, but she still keeps her cards close to her vest, close to her chest, which I think is a really interesting kind of character motivation there.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So Okay, so basically, the police report things mainly a Trojan horse, so he can get inside there. The ideal plan is to get a confession on tape, which I thought was really sly of me. I like the phone recording all this, hopefully, just to get them mouthing off to him, and they would have like proof of the illicit activities going on. He knew it was a long shot, though. Basically, he's going there so he can propose a deal to the sheriff. Well, basically the chief. Sorry, I keep saying sheriff. He's running for sheriff. That's why I keep getting my wires crossed on that one.
Mhm.
Sandy Byrne, played by the wonderful Don Johnson. How great is Don Johnson in this movie?
I mean, I think like obviously this is Aaron Pierre's movie, but like Don Johnson is just such a great foil to him. He's such a great kind of counter antagonist. And like I said, I think it's awesome that like we already hate the police by the time this guy shows up. Like we are already like knee deep in our hatred for them. And then this guy shows up and it just turns into another level of personal.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the face of corruption in the town. You know, he's very. I love the very straightforward deal that Terry makes with them here. Like, look, just give me the bail money, keep the rest. Just give me the 10,000 for the bail.
Uh-huh.
You know, so I can just take it. It's not even like for him. It's just so I can take it down to your courthouse and bail my cousin out. That's all he wants. And he's like, look, I know
He's so
you've
fucking
stolen.
rational the whole time. He is so like, you know, just like he's so patient about it. Like, and you can tell it's like kind of like a strategic sort of patience, right? He's not a pushover, obviously, but it's like just this kind of reserved, like, you are a son of a bitch, and I know you're a son of a bitch, but I'm gonna play civil with you because I know that's literally how it has to be, almost.
And again, later on, and probably my other favorite scene in the movie, we have the whole PACE acronym, and of course, with that, we have his plan of action here. You know, the primary goal, which he basically tried carrying out before they took the money. Um, alternate, which is what he's doing now, and making the deal.
Uh-huh.
You know, then the contingency, and then the escalation.
Right.
But yeah, so with all this, I love that even later on in that scene, Chief Sandy here, he basically tells him like, no, your demands were absolutely reasonable, but it's the fact that you made them thinking you had authority. It's this ego that I love the fact that I just love an egotistical character like this. Again, Sandy just he all because the way in which he made the demand, that's what got under his skin. That's why he wouldn't give
Exactly.
it. That's why
Yeah.
he screwed him over. He told him like, okay, yeah, in a couple, come back Thursday and you can see him on the bus before he goes and pay his bail, etc. And he screws him over. Oh, you're 3 minutes late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh God, such a such a Anyways, but yeah, so I love that he commands all this folksy respect that only Don Johnson can exude, like like water off the back of a duck. It's great.
Right.
The Southern comfort, the Southern comfort fu mentality.
I mean, we do get a little bit of like pleasantries here, you
That's what I
know?
mean. The whole sir thing, and then the whole
Right,
allow me to
right. Yeah,
finish.
yeah.
It's just it's just the egos at play there.
Uh-huh.
And I love that we play that he's not dumb and racist. I love that he's clearly he's underestimating him clearly here. But I love that he's a smart character. He can see the play this guy's trying to make. Like, he is kind of a step ahead of him, but again he's missing a critical detail that's going to bite him in a few minutes.
Right, right.
Anyway, so point being, Act One again, it's the intrigue of can a very reasonable, very focused black character get a win in a very bent system? He's just trying to save his cousin. He's we've established as a victim of circumstance purely here. We have the power move of the bus, of the whole like the dirty pool of making sure he's late for the bus. And we have that awesome kind of seriously, the only scene that Mike is like he's just kind of a line in the movie until we see that scene on the bus. Like, Mike has one scene with him in the movie entirely. It's a pretty good scene.
You know what, though? Dragon, I will say, I will push back just a little bit here. I wish that Mike as a character was a little bit more well developed. I wish we got a little bit more from him. I mean, I know it's not ultimately his story, and we do like. I'm going to be honest with you. The scene on the bus is maybe my least favorite scene in the whole movie, just because tonally, I think it's just a little bit too light. compared to like everything else going. It's like, and I get that maybe what the point is it's supposed to be kind of like giving us a false hope, like, yeah, that's my cousin, he's gonna get me out. Ooh,
It is. It's kind of, here's the look. Just given how severe the rest of the movie is gonna be.
No, but you know what I mean though. It's like it's literally the one moment in the movie where, like, maybe if there were like little moments of levity sprinkled throughout a little bit more, it'd be one thing. But no, it's like this is like the one moment in this whole movie that's like, oh yeah, this is a triumphant moment right here.
You know, the only other triumphant little moment we have in the whole movie is,
What?
not counting the ending, obviously, but the only it's you know, it's like they go to Terry and McBride, you know, the Summer, they go to this diner to have their conversation where she basically loops them in on the exposition. They had snowballs.
Yes, yes.
Oh, this is kind of cute. I just didn't realize until this rewatch. Like, oh look, they had little snowballs.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. But I don't know. I just think it's kind of like a nice little moment of like. Here's the thing: it's a moment that doesn't fit into the story, but it's just this one moment of like, you know, he has an interaction with Mike, and it's a defying. It's a moment of defiance in which,
Yeah.
you know, he speeds up on the bike to fist bump his cousin. Essentially, it's the last exchange they're going to have, and it just gave Mike hope. You know, I don't know. It was just something. I don't know. It was kind of a nice moment.
It's a nice moment. I'm not going to say it's not a nice moment. It's just, like I said, it's just a little bit like, it's just tonally the one thing in the movie that is thrown off a little bit from everything else. That's kind
See,
of
I have a different nitpick with the movie. I'm going
okay.
to mention. Okay, so here's the thing that doesn't bother me. Here's what bothers me. It's not. I want to be clear. It's not major. It's a nitpick purely. It's like something that, you know, we address enough, but it's very, very surface level, and it's the only thing in the movie that gives me more questions than I think I should have. Mr. Liu. So,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel like that plot line is a little undercooked.
well, yeah, that's the thing. So we
Yeah,
established that he essentially got this money from him. He's got history essentially. You know, he's a military contact who runs I believe, a Chinese restaurant. And I don't know if the China, because here's the thing, it feels like it complicates Terry when he says, like, you know, the money and everything's legit. Because
right, right, right.
I'm inclined to believe him, because that's kind of the character that he is. He seems very forthright. He seems, you know, very man of honor kind of a vibe. I believe that's the truth. Now, it sounds like he's been working at the restaurant too, but I don't know if maybe that's code for him doing other things for the restaurant or not, because the guy is patching him up and he's an old military
Yeah, no,
contact.
it's almost like, dare I say, the one element that you're gonna fucking hate me for bringing this up, Trek. You're gonna hate me. It's the one element of the movie that's vaguely like John Wick-ish. Where the only thing I mean by that is like he's kind of got like a little bit of a secret past. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a reach, but
I mean, look, I will admit, I wish we weren't as vague with that, because it just seems like, I don't know, because it's the way we play it is that, okay, so him mentioning Mr. Liu endangered his business, and that's why he can no longer send him the money order for the 10,000.
right.
And later on, we kind of he says that he promises to make it right, and he gives him the rest of the money that he's reclaimed. So, you know, he's on good terms with him. I don't know. It just feels like we should have had like one line of like, so how do you know this guy?
Uh-huh.
Or like, you know, basically something to imply like, okay, was this guy doing illicit things and that's what landed Mike in trouble or not? Because we can't just. It feels like we're trying to play both ends of it, and I don't think that's possible.
Sure.
Like, either he's on the level or he's not on the level, you know, because it feels like he's the vet from the Albuquerque verse. Anyway, so again, nitpick though, because I mean, it's just all we need to know is like, okay, he had a potential way of getting the $10,000, and we had to establish where he got it from in the first place, where he got the money from, like the 36,000 in the first place. That's pretty much it.
Right.
Anyway, so because we play like a big deal too, where he's very apologetic and showing a lot of respect to this guy. So I don't know, but anyway, that's my nitpick. Regardless, so at this point, we're rooting for for Terry here, and Terry has this really bold plan to reclaim the stolen property. And I love that it's not him like robbing the place. It's not him really doing something truly wrong. It's him just getting back what they took from him in a very bad way. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the, I love. So this is where I get my second favorite scene in the whole entire film. Okay, I love the editing on this. I love the fact of like they're doing research on Terry's background, and like the Wi-Fi's out, and like they printed out like, okay, what's this acronym stand for? It's MCMAP stand for. Then the Wi-Fi goes out, they're replugging in the router. And I love like the realistic Albuquerque versus kind of like, kind of like delays and imperfections. And just while this is happening, uh, Chief Sandy here, he makes the very poor decision of, nah, I'll go out. That means he doesn't have combat experience in the military. I'll be fine. I'm just going to go out there.
Exactly.
Then again, just the editing. We have this wonderfully acted scene between Aaron Pierre and Don Johnson going on, and then all the while we have like the reveal coming in at just the right moment in time. Marine Corps martial arts program. Like, oh boy, like that's
like I said, just. I think it's played much more straight. Like, I'm not calling this a John Wick clone by any means. I'm really not. But you got to admit that there's, on some level, the whole like, oh shit, he's a trained Marine. He means more business than we thought he did. I feel like it's one of the few times that this movie actually does kind of indulge in those like Netflix action movie cliches.
Well, look, even if they're saying, yes, we have kind of our Netflix action movie sell here, but that's the thing. I think it's a very unique sell because ordinarily, Tiki, any other Netflix action movie would have this. Okay, would have that. Okay, we reveal he's an ex-killer, like an ex-mercenary or something, and he actually would have killed everyone there. And there's not a dead body in this whole film.
Right.
Well, all right. Well, sorry. Okay, sorry. There's not a murder in this film that we see our main character commit or anyone
sure.
Like I say, we don't act aside from Mike, obviously, aside from Mike getting stabbed off screen in prison, which is a very
that is very much played, like you said. It's definitely like I think it's tastefully done in an off-screen kind of way. I like how restrained that was.
like the gravity of it's there in the aftermath and everything. So that's what's important. What I'm getting at is like we don't have gratuitous gun fu action or anything going on here. We don't have, that's the John Wick thing you're talking about. But I think it's very refreshing. We have a non-lethal John Wick situation here, which we never see.
Right.
I think it's just an ingenious reveal and just the realistic speed at which I just love that it's so well choreographed that the idea of this guy is going back and forth between these two guys, and almost like it's going to be a very weird, very one percenter example. It's kind of like it's like the stunt rehearsal sessions or the martial arts demonstration sessions in the making of Batman Begins with the whole Key fighting style. Where it's like, okay, it's very realistic, kind of like, okay, they go back and forth, and he would just like take both of them down and disarm. You know me, because of my love of Batman, I love gun disarmament. So I love this so much.
Yeah, totally.
Just seeing these guys go, what the, they're just taken out summarily by this guy. Just it's a refreshing way of reworking kind of the action cliche there. I thought anyway. So it's just an MVP mode. So besides the action, just the performance here. Terry and Sandy they square off here, and just this is where Sandy lays out the whole. No, your request was very reasonable, but the fact that you asked it, and then Terry's coming to the realization like you could have offered me eternal life or a catfish sandwich, and the answer would have been the same.
That's a great line. That's a
yes. Like call me sir was the only thing you had going for you. So again, just the power move there, just the whole, it's literally just the ego of it all. That's what the undoing was. And
right.
I just love that it's like a poker game of a scene, and Aaron Pierre's got a full house, and I love that he's just playing this whole scene knowing what he had. Like they've underestimated the very crucial plot point that he's got at his fingertips right now. Now we have the whole letters and acronyms thing with Pace. Are we gonna went into again the speed again? It's not even just the gun disarm; it's the speed at which he does the gun disarmament. Like while people are discombobulated, like he's able to do all that. So then we're getting to kind of like almost like a Dog Day Afternoon kind of situation here, but just kind of at an action movie pace. Just the idea of like the tension mounting in him regaining the bail money. Like he goes in there, he's holding him hostage, but he's doing it in like the smoothest, most efficient way you've ever seen in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he knows that he's going to get her. He knows there's no way out. He's just trying to. His goal is to. Okay, I know I'm not going to get away with this scot free. I just need to get to the courthouse, post the bail, and then get arrested. I'll take the consequences. I got to make sure he legally is bailed, and they can't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, and now, Dragon. When we're going through this whole like this stuff with the bail, I do want to bring up one thing with this movie, which is that I do feel like the movie is kind of divided into like the two halves. Like, like once the cousin gets killed, I kind of feel like the movie gets a little darker, but it also gets on some level a little less urgent, just because like the thing that Terry's fighting for is kind of gone at that point. And you know what I'm getting at is basically like, okay, like on some level we still have a reason to keep fighting, but also like I don't know.
Well,
I feel
no,
like
it goes from having a tangible goal to then it's revenge.
Right, yeah.
And you're saying
And
the
I guess as
tangible
someone
goals.
who like I'm not as interested in like the actual revenge thriller side of things when it comes to these movies, I feel like it's a little bit of a downgrade from the first half, just a little bit, but I don't want to be like picky about it.
Yeah, there is one thing I think. I'm with you, but I think there's one thing that kind of softens that for me, though. It's the fact that initially he wasn't out. Remember, he even says this later. He wasn't out for revenge. He was like going. He was actually gonna, was gonna kind of just go and cut his losses. But then, they were messing with McBride. They almost killed McBride.
Right,
That's
yeah.
so that's that I feel was kind of the
That's
fill-in
true.
for
That's a
Mike.
good point.
And I
Yeah.
think I think that at least got us over the hump to revenge, because it's kind of in three parts. You have Mike, the tangible goal, then McBride is kind of the interruption, and then we go to revenge for like the last third.
Mm.
You know. Anyway, and basically, I would argue McBride is kind of the she's kind of like the Mike we get to know more.
Sure, a little bit. That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so point being is this whole like the whole heist. I love it. It's not really theft because he basically just he's making the chief honor the deal that he made in the first place. Where he only look, I'm just taking the 10,000. Okay, you can keep all the rest, and he doesn't like take any of the other stockpiled cash they have that they've kind of taken from other people. So I just love it. It's the whole. I love the arrest escape where he basically lets Jess like arrest him and plays it really cool. And we have this we show about the awesome moment that Jess has where you have like the redneck brigade outside that's ready to back up the sheriff's department.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all like, you should string him up here. And he's like, hey, he's a veteran. He's like he's going through some stuff. Like mind your business.
Right.
It's just sticking up for him, which is really. And I didn't do it for. He says thank you for that. He's like, no, I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. Like, yeah, that's a.
And once again, I really Dragon. I feel like that character is one of the most impressive characters to me in this whole movie because I feel like in a lesser movie they would just make her just like objectively loyal to Terry just on the basis that they're both black and she's like, I get it, you know what I mean? But no,
she's in an interesting position here. She does, but she swore an oath.
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing. We have her and the David Denman character, but more so her, obviously. David Denman is like more like in the last moments of the movie. These are characters that are cops, and again, they didn't. You have to imagine any cop, even dirty cops and everything. You have to imagine at some point they had to believe in it, right?
Sure, yeah.
And that's the thing. And there are shades of gray, and then you have cops, like the Mike Ehrmantrauts of the world, so to speak, at least in the fictional landscape. You have the Mike Ehrmantrauts of the world who, again, are like cops that have made bad decisions, but fundamentally, again, probably still good people.
Mm-hmm.
Who've bent the rules or have seen a lot of stuff or have had like an experience. And again, like unfortunately, policing isn't as clear cut as I think we would like it to be. It has probably been in the olden days, at least in media, more specifically. We're in the post '70s Serpico era. Which we reference in this movie hilariously, by the way. We nickname Bride Serpico because she's the whistleblower. Right. Anyway, okay, so that's thing. So Act Two, we open It's weird. How do you cut it off? Do you think Act 1 ends with the death of Mike, or do you think Act 2 opens with the death of Mike?
I think Act 1 ends with the death, I think. That's how I
Okay,
would look at it.
that's the thing. A part of me, I'm kind of torn on because part of me feels his arrest and like it's like almost like a false successful end of Act 1 of like we've achieved our goal, and Aaron Pierre's character is kind of out of moves. He's been arrested and he's now in the dungeon, and then we kind of come out of it with okay, now he's it's like where do we go from here, and then we learn okay, so everything he's achieved undone.
Uh-huh.
But fair point. Point being, it's a very strong moment where again the Chief's ego got Mike killed in the end. We have this really great. I love that we went from such an intense kind of standoffish scene to this really oddly tender scene between Don Johnson and Aaron Pierre.
Yeah, I think it's like the one time where they're actually like a little bit cordial towards each other, weirdly.
Yeah, I know that's the thing because I
Yeah,
guess the way
yeah.
Johnson plays this is again he really didn't mean for this guy to get killed, and he feels bad that again him.
No, and I love it again. It's like this guy is a sick son of a bitch. He's easily like the biggest villain. Like if this movie needs an objective villain, it is this guy, like unquestionably. But at the same time, this scene does kind of prove that even he, on some level, does have a little bit of a conscience, which is fascinating, I think.
I also think on some level, I think the way Johnson's playing it too is that he does respect that this guy got the upper hand on them. I think he's impressed by it on some
Sure,
level.
sure.
It's kind of like yeah, it's kind of like admitting his own fault, but not actually. It's like yeah, I underestimated him. Yeah, we should we screwed up. But again, not of course not the systemic like just kind of abuse of power. It's just like that moment.
Right, right.
Anyway, so basically, this is kind of serving as an apology, but mostly a bribe to not whistleblow, the crooked kind of game that they're running on the town, and which basically, so overall, we have this really. I think our dialogue's really on point. I think the director has a real flair for dialogue, by the way. He also was the writer on this. I think the way we're doing the exposition in the car, where he's basically, long story short, the town. Basically, the town isn't funding the police, and they're on their own for seeking the funding, which is why they're doing what they're doing. Essentially, that's kind of what the claim is, and they're selling all the confiscated weapons and stuff to other police departments, and that's how they're raking in the dough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyway, so but again, of course, in the process, just taking utter advantage of people with all these misdemeanors that are basically like they're taking everything from these people, and also they're also like putting them in prisons for like over 90 days, which is could be very dangerous for people, as we see with Mike.
Right.
Yeah. And again, we should probably talk about one of the best elements of this. I think you had this as well as I did. You thought they might. You were on the edge of your seat, wondering, are they going to try and kill him here?
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, throughout the whole damn movie, there is kind of that quite. I mean, weren't you? I feel like police brutality is kind of a very common thing. It is kind of edgy your seat, I think.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, just the fact that like we're kind of you're kind of ending Act 1 essentially here, and like oh god, it's like after all that, and they're taking him seemingly to the outskirts of town, and they like uncuff.
That's true. Yeah, and it's like we don't. And honestly, like. I do feel like this movie is like throughout the whole runtime does a good job of kind of twisting up like what you're expecting, especially like obviously from the point of view of a Marvel or not a Marvel, I'm sorry, of a Netflix action movie.
Perspective DC, my friend. Perspective DC.
Right. But what I'm trying to say though is like I feel like this is the type of movie where it's like none of the rules that this movie has set up have established that Terry actually needs to live through the whole runtime. You know what I mean? Like there is a clear danger there. He does not have plot armor by any means.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, man. Anyway, so but yes, just a wonderful, just great great palpable tension for the audience in that scene, and again, just Johnson's masterful in the scene, how he's just laying it out there like a bribe, or you go away for 30 days, or worse, sorry, 30 years. He goes away for 30 days, we have walk in the park. It's either take the bribe and get out of town, or risk 30 years or death. Potentially death. If he makes a scene, they will shoot him right there because they have the guns on him and everything.
Which, I mean, and we kind of glazed over the actual gun scene, but like that,
yeah.
Again, that just kind of proves that like they are not afraid to like bend the rules. They are not afraid to get corrupt. They will do whatever they can to maintain their reputation, maintain the status quo. Kind of sounds like real police, you know.
This just occurred to me right now. I just love that in this scene, we have the David Denman character is in like the ultimatum scene here, and of course later on, we get to the third act. We're gonna have Chief Sandy here is gonna plain shoot him in the leg and basically like put him in the situation that the Terry character's in. Where it's like lower the gun, stuff threatening our livelihoods, or we're gonna shoot you and let you bleed out.
Exactly.
Anyway, so then we get into act. Of course, after we grieve the loss of Mike, Act 2 essentially is McBride and Terry is finding evidence, and we kind of hear McBride's sad tale. But what gets us there too is that when him saving McBride draws the ire of the police, who basically they want to nip her in the bud, and it's so twisted to me. They gave her just enough to she's either going they're going to take the risk of her ODing, which they didn't give her enough to OD, but there's still a chance of it. And regardless, her life
it's twisted on a lot of levels. Obviously, there's the danger of the OD, but it's also twisted just on the fact of like
her life is ruined.
Yeah, and like just like Dragon, like I know recovering addicts, and like I can just tell you right now, like they are Jesus Christ, if something like this would have happened, like it would absolutely be devastating, man. Just fucking devastating. Like just if anything else, like I could see a recovering addict, even if it's obviously objectively not their fault, there would be a very much a level of self-loathing involved here. And
you saw how sad that drug test scene was, right?
Oh my! That scene is honestly one of the hardest scenes to watch in the whole movie for me.
It's the whole thing of like James Cromwell playing the judge, who we learn again does actually like her and does actually help her out in her first.
But I think the fact that James Cromwell is nice to her just makes it all the more sad.
And that's the thing too. We learn later on, like James Cromwell has like 2 scenes in this movie, and they're very good scenes. Where he just has this scene where he's pointing out like, well, look, I believe you, but the drug test will just go to prove it. And then of course, just the tragedy there. And he did this intentionally to wound her, to protect her. Like, okay, look, you're gonna have to throw your life away so you don't have your life ended.
Right.
So that's just twisted on so many levels. But that's the thing. It's the fact that she's got a kid. She's going to lose her kid. She's going to lose her job. She's going to lose her sobriety. Like all of this, it's horrible. And I hear that when she tells the story of like what happened, basically her having a problem, and she basically hawked a lawnmower. The fact that the lawnmower had a snowblower attachment, which raised it from like
man, that it pisses me off almost as much as the initial like Terry getting pulled over.
Yeah,
it's just fucking dirty.
Not even pulled over, he gets rammed. That's the other thing too.
Right,
he literally gets run off the road.
By all intents and purposes, they are being the aggressive ones, and that's
yeah.
Man.
I was just like, we don't like fit black men. Let's just ram them.
Basically, yes. I mean, you joke, but like that's essentially what the attitude is.
Just like think about it. You have like a couple chubby cops. Says, you know what? If we applied ourselves, we could have that body, but we don't want it. But we're feeling a little upset about this. So you know what? This is what he gets for being beautiful. We're gonna ram him off the road.
All right.
Yeah, we like Guy Gardner more. Also the rookie.
Yes.
Anyway, let's see, where was I? Oh, right, okay. But yeah, so he used to hold the snowblower thing. The fact that he became a felon all because of a stupid snowblower attachment. Also, the fact we get like the one legit joke of the movie, by the way, which is really funny. That blows.
That was, you know what? That is the type of humor where it's like, when you're just like, like if you're in the hospital dealing with like a loved one being really sick, and like sometimes a joke like that just can realistically go a long way to lighten the mood. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a corny dad joke like that.
Like you have like a dying patient say, "Man, this food's giving me cancer."
Oh God, exactly. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so after this, so basically that thing. So the fact that all because he went out again, he was leaving town. He stopped to save her because again, she did have a 50-50 chance at it there of potentially ODing or having a bad reaction to the whatever they injected her just to make her look just to discredit her. Him saving her is the reason that the cop, your favorite cop, Officer Lamb.
Yes.
The fact that guy of all people, he stops him, and he's here's the thing, Tiki. I forget if because he goes by so fast. I know he says gun. I forget if he does. You do see him throw the gun in.
No,
there,
he
right?
throws the gun into the fucking car and then
okay.
yells, "Gun!"
Just want to make sure because I know he says it and then he shoots him. I just forget.
Yeah,
He literally shoots him by a mere say. He shoots him in the shoulder and then he basically he grabs the gun.
I mean, it's just the fact that he's just got the audacity to be like, I'm just gonna blatantly lie in this situation. Like, I'm just gonna give myself, the probable cause. Like, it's disgusting.
Yep. It's so
Dragon, in the
satisfying.
moment, I was literally like screaming at my laptop. I was like, "You son of a bitch!"
Yeah, it really is. Isn't it so satisfying when he gets tasered like in the neck by him?
Sure.
I love it. Later on, you can see he still has like the taser bar marks in his his neck.
Right.
God. But yeah. So anyway, so basically now we're on. This is where we're on kind of the avenging path. We're going to make sure McBride gets justice and Mike gets justice. All this. They go to Elliot, the seemingly very very.
You know what I really like about this whole thing is that if they would have just left well enough alone and just fucking let McBride be, then Terry would be completely out of their hair.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was literally on his way out of town.
Yep.
It's the arrogance of not youth but people in power,
Yep. It's the arrogance of law.
The arrogance of law. There we go. I can see Batman having something to say about the arrogance of law.
He could. All right, so then we have Elliot. Elliot was the guy who basically posted the bail to. He's like the bail's bond, well, not bail bondsman, but essentially he's the guy at the courthouse. So Elliot, this is kind of nice here. Elliot, he basically gives them a hint without spelling out like the legal loophole of I can't tell you anything, but here are the questions you should be asking.
Right.
That directs him to James Cromwell as the judge. He gives us some exposition about like find the drives, basically find the proof, yada yada yada. We have the namesake showdown. So basically, they take during in retrieving the drives, our bent cops they kidnap, they capture McBride, and your favorite cop holds her hostage. And basically, they're going to have a kind of a showdown, very western,
almost like kind of like a local folklore around this Rebel Ridge location. You know what I mean?
I know, right? Yeah.
Like you get the sense that a lot of bad, corrupt police shit has gone down here.
That's the vibe you get. I don't know if it's like actually built into the history of Louisiana or not. Rebel Ridge. It sounds like this has to be a real place.
Maybe, I don't know. I didn't look into it. I honestly wouldn't be too surprised if it was a fictional location, but I think it kind of speaks to like a lot of small towns have this one particular location where it's kind of infamous as like a spot where cops do their worst sort of busts.
Yeah. So basically, it's kind of like an old. It feels very. I love that the third act feels. It's kind of like starts off like as an old western, and then
the actual Rebel Ridge standoff is very western coded. Yeah,
it feels like a western. Then it turns into a relay race to the finish line.
It almost kind of turns into a little bit like Mad Max-esque.
Little bit, yeah, man. It's very vehicular.
Not Fury Road, but like the original Mad Max. Not even Road Warrior Mad Max, just the original Mad Max.
Sure. All right, so the exchange is the girl for the drives. We have the So basically, we have this really clever fake out where the cop that he took the radio from, he turns him into like kind of a scarecrow because he knows they're going to go after him in the car. He uses this opportunity as bait and switch to burn all the corrupt money. You know, earns all the corrupt money, and this is so satisfying. Him, look, nothing against. We all love Don Johnson. We got for the villainous character he is playing. Having Terry shoot this guy with beanbag after beanbag is just really satisfying. It's just really cathartic.
Yeah, totally.
I love it's literally because initially you think, oh God, did he shoot him? He's like, no, he shot him with beanbags. This is awesome. Yeah. So again, the non-lethal measures. So rarely do you have a revenge, let alone a revenge movie. Revenge movies always have bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
Worst we have is just a leg shot. Anyway, so then we have like Jess's kind of turncoat moment here, where I love that it's not even just a turncoat, it's just where Jess, it's kind of her optimism and faith in what she's doing versus the reality of the situation, where he's trusted her before, but he did have all the power there.
The situation is very much like kind of just playing out right in front of her face, right? Like throughout most of the movie, she's kind of just like, I see what this guy's going through. Like, I kind of see that he's in the right, but at the same time, I need to preserve my job. But like at a certain point, she realizes that these motherfuckers absolutely do not have her back either.
Yeah.
And that's where the turn happens.
And I love, so again, I don't mean this to keep like hyping that guy up, but David Denman, this scene I felt was very well executed and just kind of set up here. Where okay, so Officer Land, the worst cop, he was the one who attempted the OD on McBride early. He's the one who did that. He's the one who basically almost practically killed her, or at least ruined her livelihood with a smile on his face. He threw the gun. This guy's terrible. Importantly, that wasn't David Denman's character, because then we wouldn't have this really great moment where you get the sense, had he known that was the plan, he would have been very against that. And we see this moment here where, again, like during the hostage exchange, he says, oh, yeah, she's in the car. She's fine. But, oh, wait, she's not doing so good. I guess we forgot to search her. It's like, oh, you just want to punch that guy, right?
Totally.
And that's it. But I love that moment, though, when he's goading him on about that. That's when, Marston here, the David Denman character, is where he says, like, okay, look, we're going to give her go to the ER and then we'll deal with this guy. His point being, like, look, we're not going to, like, shoot him or anything. We're just going to we'll lock him up and then we're taking her to the ER first. Like, that's the line. That's when he's reminded of the badge, of the oath that he took. That's the whole thing. Like, no, we're not just like that. Overdose a poor innocent woman here just because she knows too much. Like, that's crossing a line for him, and that's where he's drawing his gun on everybody. It's a really, again, things just take a very interesting turn there.
I feel like that the moment where people are like just turning their guns on each other, that is very much like the most Albuquerque verse moment in the whole thing, where it's just like everyone is out for themselves, nobody can trust anybody.
Yep, and then enter Don Johnson just shooting him in the leg, and I love this detail because at the same time we did the cliche, and then we bumped up against the cliche. So earlier, we shot Terry in the shoulder, but we did see him get patched up, so he didn't just walk it off the whole movie. But later on, again, right now, the David Denman character, he's shot in the leg and nicked an artery, which again, we don't do like, it's just a leg wound, will be fine. It's like, okay, there's a danger there. He might die. He's in dangerous.
This movie does not play by Monty Python. It's only a flesh wound logic.
Exactly. We're not doing the old movie. Oh, it's a through and through. He's fine.
Right.
It's like, no, it went through and through, but it hit something important on the way. So again, I just love all this. I love this band, our merry band of misfits in the car right now. We have McBride in the back. We do like the old Narcan. By the way, I've heard some police things in real life about some. I gotta be honest. Some cops, if they get really disenfranchised with the addicts, not all of them carry Narcans in the car.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Some of them, on principle, like, I'm not enabling the drug use. I'm not going to carry the Narcans, which is kind of a scary thing.
Right.
But I mean, that's the thing. I love that we have the line of for the kids, like just because they're worried about the kids overdose. And that's why they carry the Narcans.
Right.
Now it's like it's a little detail. I just think it's important to kind of mention that not all cops do that, and that is a real world scary thing. I've heard cops in person tell me that, and it's like, oh God, that's
And again, I feel like we can file out a way for like the impact slash legacy section where because I feel like this movie really does shine a lot of light on like real world police bullshit.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so just the race to the hospital and the fact that we have like now Denman's character is on the side, he's in the passenger seat of the car, and he's like we have like he's giving him the keys again. They smashed the USB drive, so they have no proof, but they have the dash cam footage. So the moment those lights turn on, they have all the proof they need about what's going on here. About like basically Don Johnson, like shooting him in the shooting him in the leg, and a fellow officer in the leg, point blank.
There's a moment in Companion where like where Jack Quaid thinks that he is that he solved his problem only to realize like, oh shit, there's a whole other like video surveillance component that I wasn't accounting for, and I got to deal with that. And this is kind of like it's a little bit of a matchstick moment, Dragon. It's a little bit of a matchstick moment.
Well, no, you're right. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
We have the drives and they get smashed. It's like, what are we going to do now? And we
Right.
we literally got Sandy, Chief Sandy there saying like, hey, we like, maybe we should let him die, essentially on camera.
Essentially, yes.
Like, initially he shoots him and says he'll collect a nice pension, he'll be fine. This is, well, you nicked an artery. He says, oh, we got to call him. No, wait. Anyway, so we have this great race to the finish line, and then Jess pulls the sacrificial move there. She rams Sandy's car and saves the day. On with a busted tire and everything, they head to the hospital. I love how this is staged so perfectly. Okay.
Yeah, if you remember, I was a little down on this the first time I watched it. I got to admit, on a rewatch, I think this ending plays a little bit better because it is kind of like, and I kind of feel like I've been using this comparison a lot, but like it's kind of like a more underplayed version of the Captain Phillips ending, where it's not like an emotional release, but it's more so like once Terry has finally gotten to where he needs to go, he's almost kind of like numb more than anything else.
Yeah, it's like you white knuckle it to the finish line. Just you're taking that moment to decompress, but without,
right.
It's very internalized.
So I do respect the ending a lot more because if you remember, the ending was kind of one of the things like I didn't hate the ending, but it wasn't something I was blown away by. And I don't want to say I was blown away by it, but I think I see more what they were going for with it.
Yeah, I mean, I like here's a detail I really loved about it is that okay, it's like and pretty much in one shot he pulls up to the entrance of the hospital. He's like carrying her in like bed, it's like this is with the top of his lungs. They bring the gurney in there, but I love he grabs that from like the little fire extinguisher and just kind of fired himself. He grabs the axe, cuts out the DVR drive from the trunk of the cop car. If you look, the cops they're showing up at the hospital, there's this the one that he duct taped to the steering wheel, that one as the scarecrow, as kind of like the as the fake, as the decoy. That cop, he goes to the trunk and it looks like he's looking for that drive and it's not there. He got it right at the last second. Like had he not gone back for it.
Sure.
Like that's like those little details, man. Yeah. I love that we don't spell out what happens afterwards. You just say you're at this point you're just hoping it all worked out, and he's like, he's not letting go of that thing for dear life.
Yeah, and no, you're right, and that's another thing that I kind of realized on a rewatch is the fact that so much is kind of still up in the air is kind of like a little bit narratively like not satisfying, but like artistically satisfying. I think me, I'm one who. I adore ambiguity when it comes to endings, and I feel like the fact that we really don't get spelled out exact like Terry's achieved his goal, but we still don't know exactly how it's all going to work out for him.
Yeah.
So like I do like that.
Yep. And again, so at the end of the day, Terry's actions inspired people to do the right thing, even some of them having lost their way or some of them just having been put through the ringer. He kind of inspired the right people to do the right thing and end up saving McBride. And I think that's kind of and hopefully saving the town as well. That's essentially, it's kind of the payoff there. Yeah.
All right. So that transitions us, I guess, into Impact.
Yeah. So it's to round things out.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean again, I love this movie. It's kind of like it's bringing a little something extra to kind of like the action genre. Like it's kind of a thoughtful action movie in the sense it's not about the action. It's about kind of it's about empathy for the character and really and just kind of rooting for his goal and his journey, and also just again execute in such a way that you not see in so many things. I mean, this thing could be very forgettable, just like it could have been very surface level. It could have been very look at
Could have
like
even been a
on
movie where it had a really memorable opening scene and then kind of fell off after that, which
yeah.
that tends to happen.
And it could have just been very surface level in terms of a lot of a lot of topical things that we see. We're like, okay, we either have racial prejudice, profiling, or just like someone like incarcerated, for a very bogus reason, and we have those elements here. But the movie's not solely defined by those elements. There's a compelling story here. Aaron Pierre is carrying this movie in all the right ways. I feel, look, I'm not saying John Boyega wouldn't have been good in this movie, but I don't know. It's the fact that Pierre is really making a name for himself.
I don't think Boyega would have had as much of a presence to him as Pierre does.
I mean, honestly, you know what? I'm gonna go this far with it. Okay, I'm gonna say probably like we could have we could have said then about Michael B. Jordan to a degree. It's kind of like we need to give the hungry young black actors. We gotta, we have to give them that bite at the apple. We have to give them that start. We have to give them their Christopher Reeve moment. We have to give them. We have to go for the unknown and see what they can do. Because if John Boyega is in this movie, I would argue it's like it's going to be okay. So we just we're doing this for ratings and relevancy, and it's just John Boyega. He's.
Although to be fair, like in John Boyega's case, he really got screwed from Disney Star Wars. He's come out to say he's like very unhappy with how Finn was handled in the Star Wars movies. So like, I do think Boyega does need another role beyond Finn to really shine, and I hope he gets it. But yeah, I see what you're saying though.
Yeah, just the fact that again, we can find the next Michael B. Jordan and someone like an Aaron Pierre or something. There's a lot of untapped talent.
This very much feels like very similar to Michael B. Jordan in Fruitvale Station, where I think Michael B. Jordan was in Chronicle, of course, which was a big kind of like that's where we got Really Mean Steve, of course. But But Fruitvale Station was just like that was kind of like in between Chronicle and of course Creed was his big kind of like arrival on the scene.
That's where everyone knew Michael B. Jordan from.
Right. I feel like Fruitvale Station was like this kid can act.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the big showcase.
Yeah.
So there's something relevant. There's something really strong in the performance. The fact that again we have those eye-catching scenes that we've talked about, but again, it's the fact that the man, he carried it again, like going to the ending. He carried it all the way to the finish line. You were with this character from start to finish. There wasn't a scene in which you weren't thinking, about like, man, I really hope Terry makes it out of this okay, and I hope Terry doesn't get killed off, and I hope Terry, he is successful at his goal. And you're thinking, oh man, Terry's really changing these. Like
I said about the lack of plot armor in this movie, Dragon, I think at any point in time, Anna Sophia Robb could have carried the torch as the lead character, and that's what was kind of like unnerving about Terry's actual position in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, it could have been just like a most dangerous agent kind of fare, like a fill in anyone you want here for forgettable. Traditionally, I mean, if not Netflix, and sometimes Amazon has fallen prey to this. Sometimes just forgettable, just kind of like just kind of action fare.
Sure.
But the fact that the fact that it actually brought something to the table, and it's the fact that it sticks with you too, is just the reason, So I think that's what the impact's going to be. Is like, hey, remember that really good Netflix movie that Aaron Pierre really got us started? Like, I think that's kind of what Rebel Ridge's kind of impact is.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be, the impact is definitely going to be Aaron Pierre for sure. I also feel like I'm hoping one of the takeaways that Netflix has is like you really need like a killer opening scene to grab people. And then culturally, Dragon, honestly, just like looking past all how this movie breaks convention on the Netflix action movie stuff, I truly think that like obviously this isn't like I'm sure there's like Scorsese epics and stuff that get into police corruption more than this movie, but I think is a contemporary look into modern police corruption and how
it's a story that we're not telling.
Exactly. And I feel like that is really going to be like, I feel like Aaron Pierre is kind of like the immediate impact, but I feel like the police
corruption side of this movie is going to be more the long-term cultural impact that it's going to have. So
I think best case, a movie like this comes out and people pay attention to it. You're going to have people, like raising questions like, why do they get to keep what they find when
exactly.
there's no just cause to take it? Why are we letting them do that? Maybe we should call that out more. We should, that's the thing. Hopefully it's a wake up call kind of thing, which I think is kind of the best thing you can have with a movie that has an impact.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Yeah.
All right. Is that about it, Dragon?
I think so.
All right. Well, that's all for now, folks. Until next time, when we further educate ourselves and learn the world's not simply black or white, but brimming with color as well as character.
The next installment of Black History Heroes.
Where's Terry?